Hello. Welcome to the stream. It's 10:28 p.m. Time to party with your excellent host, Paul Mosi Hanton. Yours truly. So, today I'm just going to be doing a little bit of Photoshop work, getting some photos ready for posting on Instagram, social media in general. I say Instagram on here because that's pretty much it's all that matters, of course, but any social media my workflow is pretty much set up for. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm digging back a little bit further in my photo files. On the last stream, I talked about doing some starry nightscape photography, which I do love very much. And I've done quite a bit of it. I haven't shared very much of it, but I've done quite a bit. And I'm going to be going back over those and kind of curating this collection that I have and posting some of this stuff. So it should be pretty fun. And I think you'd be interested in seeing this process. So this photo is actually from 2007, July 31st, 2007, going way back, way back. This is at Halama Beach here in California, beautiful area. We have such beautiful places here in California, gotta tell you, if you've not been to California, it's a great place to visit. And I'm going to start with just doing a little bit of a selection, checking out what I have. This is actually a small selection. I have a lot of photos from this day, but I just pulled in a small selection of these to work with. Just to show you a little bit more about the selection process. I know which one I'm going to use, to be honest, already, but I thought you might like to see the selection process, how I vet these images before I decide which ones to edit and whatnot. So, first photos here, we got some beautiful, more just starscape imagery. A lot of dust on my sensor. I don't know if you can tell. That's one thing we're going to clean up here. Very easy to fix, very easy clean up. And these are okay. These are, I'm bored. I'm getting bored looking at them, so no. And then I have this awesome self-portrait. Now, these I'm happy about. These are the ones that we're actually going to work on. But we have a few to go through, so let's go through these. So I got this landscape orientation that is a little blurry. You can see in the metadata here on this bottom right side, it's all your exposure information, f-stop I was shooting at, shutter speed, ISO, and I believe this is the metering mode. I should know more about those little icons, but I'm pretty sure that's what metering mode. That looks like center-weighted metering mode, light meter, that I had it set to on my camera at the time. So 30 seconds is a very long exposure, and it's a very long time for someone to sit still, so it's no surprise I'm blurry there. And then, so I'm gonna say that one's no good right off the bat. Easy to cut that one out. This one looks like the same thing. A little blurry. I am a little blurry. I moved 30 seconds. Woo, what am I? Who do I think I am? Now this next one though, that's looking pretty nice. Wow, I look pretty sharp. I'm zooming in. I can see the white of my eye and my iris, so it looks pretty sharp to me. I'm never gonna have it zoomed in. I mean, this is going on Instagram, but it definitely looks a lot sharper even when not viewed at 100%. So that one's definitely a good choice. So put a 5-star on that one. And then I have a landscape orientation again, portrait orientation, landscape orientation, portrait, landscape, vertical, horizontal. This was pretty cool. This is the one that I liked the most. I remember editing, I'm post-processing these now and I'm going to share them now, but I've definitely gone through these and edited this. And I remember this one being my favorite back in the day. But I actually have decided now that I like this vertical one better. First of all, I'm a little sharper. I think the composition works better in this image. I'm going to crop it slightly and shift my position in the frame slightly different, make it slightly different. We're going to get to that. But I remember really liking this one. And maybe at some point, maybe I'll edit this one too. But I know that I really like this vertical one. And because I haven't played with it, it's going to be more fun for me to play with. So opening that up in Bridge brings us into Adobe Camera Raw, where we are going to do the bulk of this edit. And first thing I'm going to do is swap the color profile to the landscape profile. Now, this is technically, it's a portrait because I'm in there. But because the majority of this image is going to be a landscape and not a portrait, I'm going to go with the camera landscape color profile because that should, in Canon's opinion, I mean, this is I shot this with a Canon 5D, the original 5D. And Canon puts these profiles in so that you know, again, it's kind of subjective, but that the color will look better in these specific, they tweak the color for these specific scenes that you can shoot. So portrait camera mode or color profile, that should have more pleasant skin tones for portraits. Landscape should have more pleasant color tones for landscapes, greens, blues, reds, things like that. It depending on what you're shooting, you do want different types of sensitivity and color hue shifts and things like that for the different subjects. And again, it's all subjective. But for this one, I know for a fact that I'm going to do landscape. I like the landscape. It brought out, you can see going from Adobe Color, just you can immediately, what pops to me is that blue just definitely increases in saturation. And makes that pop a lot better. And because this is definitely some starry night sky photos, I want that to pop. That's what I want to look the best. So after I've got my profile set, the next thing I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to crop it because I know for a fact that I'm going to want to do this. So let's just get that done. That's probably the biggest thing jumping out at me. And I'm more or less composed right in the center of the frame. I'm very close to the center of the frame, which it's all personal preference again. And, everyone knows the rule of thirds, which you can see this line, these lines, this grid. This is literally the rule of thirds drawing. I mean, this is the outline of the rule of thirds. And obviously rule of thirds would state that you're putting you want your subject right here at these crossovers. These are where your main subject should be to look the most pleasing. That is the textbook answer for composition. But do whatever the hell you want with your composition. I am going to kind of follow that, although on this one. So I'm just going to crop in a little bit on the left side and the bottom to push my composition, myself in the image, a little bit offset. And I think that's going to feel a lot better for this particular image, especially because my eye line is looking in in this direction, camera right direction. I'm looking, and that would be. It feels. This is actually why I don't like that landscape orientation, because I'm so composed on the right side of the frame, and I'm looking off the right side of the frame, and it actually can feel a little awkward to the viewer because psychologically speaking. When you see somebody looking at something and, that is the direction you're like, oh, what are they looking at? And so your attention will be drawn to that eye line. And so having the frame open up on the side that has my eye line looking towards, I think feels a lot better. Again, very subjective. So please make your own judgments. I'd also like to point out, I keep meaning to say this right at the beginning, I do not consider these tutorials in any way. Obviously, you can follow along and do what I do. I'm not going to claim that I'm doing this in the best way possible or making the best choices. A lot of this is subjective, and I am not a Photoshop expert. I will never claim to be a Photoshop expert, although I have a lot of experience with Photoshop and I know how to do a lot of things. But I would not claim that these are tutorials in any way. So if I do something silly and it looks stupid, I mean, please tell me how you would do it. I would love to know how other people would accomplish what I'm doing, because there's always multiple ways to do things in Photoshop, and it's just the personal choice of how you get that done. So with that said, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all these dust spots, which they might be hard to see. I don't know how they come out on your monitor, but the best way to see these very well is to actually underexpose and increase the contrast. And then I find that those they come out a little bit better, they're a little bit easier to see, at least for me. It's actually probably more the contrast that does the trick, but bringing the exposure down, it's hard to see those in the very light tones. So bringing those tones down, and the sky's obviously usually a pretty light tone, so bringing it down a little bit can help. And I'm just going to use the heel brush. Super easy. Brush size is okay already. The feathering, feathering is extremely important, so I'm always pretty big on increasing the feather amount. Definitely helps hide these little band-aids that we're putting on it. So we got that one. There's one down here. This is pre-sensor shift, by the way. What cameras have now is a way to basically vibrate the sensor, the actual digital sensor. It vibrates the sensor, and that should shake the dust off the sensor. And every single time you turn on and off a camera, some cameras have settings for when it happens. Sometimes you have to do it manually if you have it set that way, or most cameras are set to have it done when you either turn the camera on, turn the camera off, or both, so that it should mitigate this kind of problem. I'm just going to raise the exposure because now that we're going up, I can't see these ones that got too dark. Back to our heel brush. I'm probably going to miss some of these. These are sometimes they're so hard to see, and then I'll finish editing an image and I'll think it's complete. And then I'll start to notice these dots, these dust spots. But anyway, this camera, this 5D, was pre-sensor filter shake. It actually, what it shakes is it vibrates the anti-aliasing filter, which I won't even get into what an anti-aliasing filter is right now. That'd probably be a discussion for another day. That's a whole can of worms. And let's see. I think we got the bulk of those. There's quite a lot of noise in this image, and so some of the blotchiness can kind of end up looking like one of these dots. So I don't want to take away what is not a dust spot. So I might err on the side of actually doing a little bit less than maybe I should, but we'll see. Just a little cleanup. I don't know if you can see this. There's these striped lines going, vertical striped lines. That's called banding. That is not good. That's bad. That's something we're also going to try to get rid of. The 5D, the original 5D was just terrible. 5D and 5D Mark II actually had some pretty bad banding issues when you expose the wrong way, I should say, because there's ways. This is because I underexposed. We're shooting at a high ISO. ISO 12,050, or I'm sorry, 1250 is very high, especially for this camera. I don't think I would ever shoot beyond ISO 1600 on this beast, because that was about the limit to my noise limit, where I will believe that it doesn't look good anymore. It's too much noise. And even this image has a lot of noise. It's a long exposure, 30 seconds. So there's definitely going to be some noise in there, especially with an old sensor like this. And 30 seconds probably wasn't even long enough. I'm at 5.6 on the Canon 17-40. Beautiful lens, by the way. I'm not going to try not to talk tech too much right here, but beautiful lens. 30-second exposure. I'm actually pretty surprised. I'm impressed with myself how still I sat, man. Call me Stonewall Jackson. I don't see any more dust spots. I think we're good. Maybe I kind of see maybe a little. That's pretty good. Let's actually just expand this one a little bit. Okay. I think that's pretty good. I I don't see any more. I'll probably maybe I'll catch one at the end. We'll see. Probably catch them as we're editing. So we got our color profile set. We got rid of those unsightly dust spots. How's our color? How's our color balance? Looks okay. I think it could cool down just a little bit. It is nighttime after all, so I think a cool color palette works really well for this image. A cooler color palette, anyway. I'm kind of bundled up. My pose is kind of like bundled up like it's cold, so it would make sense to make it look even colder. But I'm not going to go overboard. You know, we can go, if we go max or, I don't know, whatever, max reduced color temperature, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, it starts to look kind of funky. Although, you know, maybe that could be a cool way to spin this image, but I don't want to do that right now. So we're just going to keep it cooled down just to my eye, how it looks proper. And I'm pumping. I don't know if you can see me pump the slider, but I pump it and I kind of, you know, I wait till my eye says there. You know, I say, okay, there. And then I just stop pumping and it looks okay. And that got me to 3,300 Kelvin. 3.3, not bad. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. And tint, I think there might have been, what were we at? It was at +3 magenta, which doesn't look too bad. Actually, that might have landed right where we wanted it, just about. So I'll leave that there. I'm going to leave the tint there. That's looking pretty nice. I remember the exposure I had adjusted for those dust spots, so let's get that back to where we want it. That looks pretty nice. You know what else I should do? Let me make this smaller. Yeah, you guys can see that image a little bit bigger. Yeah, exposure's okay. I'm going to tweak the exposure probably. When you're editing, when I'm editing, I go back and forth on a lot of these things. So when you adjust the contrast, that might make the color look kind of strange. When you adjust the exposure, that might make the color look kind of strange. When you adjust one thing, it might push you to adjust a different slider in retaliation for what you just did. So I might adjust the exposure again, and that's fine. And the biggest issue, again, the biggest thing that jumps out at me with this image that I do not like are these striped banding lines up here. Bad, bad, bad. So being a high ISO long exposure, I do have a lot of noise in here. Although, man, this camera, it really was a great low light camera back in the day and can still provide great results. I guarantee you can find people shooting with the original 5D to this day making beautiful work because it is a great camera, and any camera you use can create beautiful images if you know what you're doing. My monitor, Blake asked me how I calibrate my monitor. My iMac, I got this not that long ago. It's a pretty new iMac. I'm just working on 27-inch iMac. I think I got it spec'd out, like I forget the exact processor and whatever. Don't make me feel foolish for trying to quote that kind of stuff. But I'm happy with the profile, the color profile, the calibration that this monitor came with. I didn't really want to mess with it yet. Apple computers should all be calibrated relatively the same. So any image appearing on any Apple device should, be kind of close. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but I guarantee you basically no monitor, two monitors, unless they're the exact same monitor, exact same type of panel that had both been recently calibrated, I doubt they're going to be exactly the same. I mean, it's really hard. Color accuracy, color calibration, that's a whole can of worms. That is a whole can of worms. Color management. And if you realize that everybody is using different monitors, and you're trying to calibrate to one particular monitor, whatever, you might start seeing the fruitlessness of your efforts in trying to get a monitor. Plus, I mean, this, I don't, this panel, the 5K panels on these iMacs are pretty good. I think it has, I forget what they quote the RGB color space. I know it has, God, I want to say it's 90% P3 color space. I forget the specs. Again, it's one of those things that's like it. I drive myself crazy trying to make sure my colors are 100% accurate on every monitor. Blah blah blah. So all I really do, is I'm going to process this image. I'm going to export it, and then I'm going to look at it on my phone. I'm going to look at it on my television. I'm going to look at it on my iPad. I'm going to send it to my brother. I'm going to have him look at it on his phone. And then I'm just going to make sure that it is relatively close to, and on all those monitors, that's relatively close. If I look at it on all those monitors and I think, wow, it actually looks way too saturated and way too overexposed on all those monitors, and my monitor is the one monitor that's strange. First of all, that would probably lead me to use something like a Spider monitor calibrator to try to calibrate this thing, because it means it was thrown way out of whack. But also, I will come back in and adjust it to fit with at least the median of all those monitors, so it looks pretty normalized on every monitor. Again, it can drive you crazy. Gary, still shooting with that 7D. Dude, that 7D is a great camera, and I see amazing images that you create with it, so don't even put yourself down. Don't let anybody put you down for what camera you use. That's like it's like a disgusting thing in the industry. You don't shoot with Sony? You don't shoot with Nikon? Like, just shut up. Sorry. People make themselves look real stupid real fast. If you're a photographer and you start hearing people talking trash about a certain camera or whatever, people like me laugh. People that know laugh, and those people make themselves look real silly. So anyway, you can get, dude, Gary, those images you post I mean, I've seen you create some great stuff, and I've created great stuff with that camera too. I got some music videos I've done with the 7D. Got plenty of awesome photos with the 7D. Anyway, let's get rid of this banding. That's what we were up to. Which I'm just going to be using noise reduction in the details section of Adobe Camera Raw. Let's turn on noise reduction a little bit. This is going to soften the image as well. Noise reduction does have some detrimental effects on image quality, but when I'm posting to something like Instagram, no one will see anything because no one can zoom in this far. So it doesn't matter. I mean, this is one reason it really doesn't matter what you shoot with. Like this, again, not that long ago, I would have told myself never to post this because of how low quality this image is. And then you realize that people are going to be looking at it like this big or whatever. And it's like, no one's going to see the grain and the noise and the lack of detail. Like, no one's going to care, dude. They're going to look at the color. They're going to look at the composition. They're going to look at the image. They're going to say what it speaks, how it speaks to them. And you got to not worry about that kind of stuff, in my opinion. Or at least now you don't really have to worry about it. So let's get in on these stripes on this banding up there so I can still see them. I'm also going to I'm going to bring down the exposure. What you'll notice is that the banding becomes a lot more evident as we move up into the shadow areas of the sky, and that's because that area received a lot less light during the exposure, whereas these areas down here received a lot more light. Areas that receive more light a lot less likely, or are less likely to have noise, digital noise, and digital artifacts like this banding, this line, these vertical lines. So up in the dark areas are where we really see that prominently and where it needs the most help. And like I said, I'm just gonna use some noise reduction. What I could probably do, I don't really want to do it for this image because I don't think it's worth the time, but what I would probably do, because this lower half does not need as much noise reduction, I'd probably do two versions of this image, layer them in Photoshop, and then paint the sky in with the heavier noise reduction. But I don't really want to do that. I kind of want to get this done in one. And I don't think, let me just double check. Yeah, oh no, you can. Okay, so let's do that. I'm sorry. This is going to be a first for me. I don't think I've ever done selective noise reduction. So this is monumental. I've never really had to be honest. So that being said, let's do this. Let's get the noise reduction pretty good for this bottom half, which I'm gonna bring it down from where I had it. Color smoothness is probably what's gonna help me a lot with this blotchiness and the banding as well. But since I don't need that down here, I'm gonna leave that low. Color noise reduction low. Noise reduction, let's bring that down to 25. Because I don't mind the grain necessarily in this image. What I mind is the noise, the weird color artifact noise. And down here, there's not much because the limited noise reduction we did is cleaning that up very well. Up here, though, while we don't have those color noise artifacts, we do have this banding artifact. So I'm happy with the bottom half noise reduction, although I think there's some blotchiness. Not sure if you can see it. It's kind of like a purple hue shift in a blotchy pattern around here. That's what the color smoothness really helps with. So let's turn that up to reduce that there. And maybe we'll pop a little bit more color noise reduction. I'm actually going to back that off to 80. A little less blotchiness. This is a weird color artifacting over here. I don't know if you can see that on yours. Let's do a 35 color noise reduction. It's not going to help there. That's probably because the corner is also going to receive a lot less light. There's definitely some vignette in this image, which I'm going to get to correcting the optics in a second. So let's do that selective noise reduction. And again, I only want the sky, so I'm painting the sky in. It's going to be a little bit of a feathering done towards the horizon. Let's pop on the overlay or the mask so we can see where we're affecting. Take it away from, it's confiscated, take it away from this area down here. Just up to the horizon where we know we want more noise reduction. And I'm going to let it eat into the hillside there because I don't want the fade from the noise reduction to be visible because I know this is a shadow area too, actually down here. Those hills are very dark, so those are going to need some help with noise reduction. So I don't mind that spills into that hillside area. Beautiful. Take off that mask. And I had a little bit of a exposure adjustment for that area, which is fine. I actually do want to underexpose the sky, so we're going to do that as well with this one selection. And that's making that sky look a lot healthier exposure-wise. Also bringing down the exposure, darkening it should make those banding lines a little less obvious, which it does. And then we're going to introduce a lot more noise reduction to that top half. To really just smear away as much detail as we can. Now, you don't have as many options here. This isn't as in-depth as the overall noise reduction that I'm getting, but it is working for what I want it to do. Like I said, the best way to do that would probably be 2 versions of this image, one with heavy noise reduction to mitigate that sky banding, and then another version to open up the detail in the lower half of the image here. But that definitely cleared it up, especially from a wider perspective. You're definitely not going to see that when this is formatted to the size it needs to be formatted. And that's looking pretty nice. What do you guys think? What do you people think? Does that look nice? It looks pretty nice. What else do I want to do, though? Let's see. I think I'm seeing another piece of... Another dust. Another dust. Dust speck. Maybe not. My mind's playing tricks on me. I was listening to Ghetto Boys earlier. Y'all know the Ghetto Boys, the band Ghetto Boys? There's a song called Mind's Playing Tricks on Me. I think that's what it's called. My mind is playing tricks on me. Mine is playing tricks on me. It's a great song. Yeah, I'm happy with that banding. And what I would probably also do, if you're going to reduce noise reduction in a specific area, keep in mind that that's also going to change the pattern of the grain structure in that area. And it can make it really obvious that you've done a selective noise reduction to that spot because there's a lot less grain in the sky. And again, I don't think I'm going to notice it with the output size that we're going to be displaying this at. You will not notice that difference in grain. So it doesn't bother me. And because the sky is kind of a solid color, I think it's going to be a lot less obvious. So I don't have to worry about adding texture back to the sky so that the overall grain looks the same, which is one of my tricks. If you need to do a heavy noise reduction on one of your images, it really helps to add back grain after as a filter on top so that the grain structure is intact. So there still is some grain structure, and then also that it's consistent across the image. And that's one of my tricks that I would use. So for instance, if I had to do extremely heavy noise reduction on this, I'd do that and then I'd bring it back, or I'd open it in Photoshop, add a noise filter or a grain filter on it, to bring it back to that photo realistic state with some grain, which I prefer less grain. Obviously, I've been always very attracted to very clean looking images with low grain, high detail, and I would always shoot for that, but you don't always have the choice. I mean, here, for instance, this is a 30-second exposure. I'm at basically my personal limit for how long I'm willing to just sit and wait physically. I mean, again, I only got 2 of these portraits done where I was acceptably sharp, and I'm not even perfectly sharp here to be, a 30-second exposure. I don't know what you expect. I mean, obviously, like I have superhuman powers because I could sit this still, but you can only ask so much from a human being. But it looks good, man. This is looking great. So the next thing I'm gonna do, the exposure looks pretty nice. Looking at the histogram, we're pretty healthy. Obviously, a lot more darker tones in this image, so that's why you're gonna see the peaks kind of blocked up in the shadow areas here. That is totally fine. I mean, if we make this histogram look healthy exposure-wise, I mean, first of all, it can't because we're going to start blowing out stuff, especially in that blue channel. But if the histogram looks healthy, the picture doesn't look good. This is why knowing how to read a histogram is important, but it is not there. I mean, it's not a rule. You don't have to. The histogram does not need to look healthy for the image to be good. But I can tell that this is a healthy histogram for this particular type of image. I'd say the exposure looks good. Looks like we brought it up 1.3 stops of exposure. And we're not clipping any highlights really, which is okay. Actually, that makes me think I should actually bump it. Probably means I can expose just a little bit more to increase some of the highlights to make them stand out a little bit more without having to introduce or increase overall contrast or specifically highlights. I think the entire image could use just that small boost. And I don't think I want to add any more contrast. This is a very contrasty image. Maybe I'll do a little bit. We're going to bring this into Photoshop in a second. Once I'm done with these general exposure adjustments and color exposure adjustments, I'll bring it into Photoshop, and then I'll probably add a curve layer and do my last tweak to the exposure, because I'm going to put this on a white border before I post it. And when you place that on a white border, right now I'm working in the gray, I think this is 18% gray, color backdrop space, which should be the most neutral, but it looks very different once you've placed a white border on it. And I find that the difference can mean a different exposure adjustment, which I'll do last. But so far, exposure looks fine. Contrast looks okay. I'm just going to kick up the contrast just a tiny bit. I'll just do a +10 just for the heck of it. Just for the heck. And I don't want to add any saturation. I love the saturation that it already has. Vibrance, by the way, there's two different sliders in Photoshop now. One for saturation, one for vibrance. The only difference is that vibrance does not affect certain colors, where saturation is an overall increase in saturation to every color, where vibrance will only affect mostly blues, greens. Like if you're doing, this is actually a perfect example of a scene to use the vibrance slider for, because I have my skin tone in this image, and I want to keep that relatively neutral or natural. And increasing the saturation here, I start to look like, I don't know, like an Oompa Loompa or something, my face color. Whereas the vibrance slider actually is not much better, to be honest, but it should, if I make a slight adjustment to it, it will not affect my skin tone, or it should not affect my skin tone as much as the saturation slider by itself. So maybe, like I said, I like the color. I'm fine with it. Although something I've also realized is that when you post something online, generally, I find that the saturation seems to look a little bit lower than how it looks in Photoshop, and that probably has a lot to do with how I have my workspace space set up, the color profile that Photoshop displays versus what you're seeing displayed on any social media or online or whatever. So I actually will bump up the vibrance, only because I know that +10 really is going to be taken away once I put this online. I find that everything kind of the saturation is going to dip down a little bit. So we'll do +10 on that. And that's going to take care of most of our basic adjustments. Curve, I'm going to do a curve, which is just going to be adjusting for contrast. My last contrast adjustment, I'm going to add a curve in Photoshop. Detail, we've done the noise reduction. Don't need any of that. Optics, let's do removal of chromatic aberration, which is going to help us out a little bit, although there's not too much. There's not much contrast between the real light and dark areas. Like you would really notice the chromatic aberration, especially on the hillside here, if I was shooting with a wide aperture prime lens at a wide aperture and it was heavily or the contrast ratio was really heavy between the sky and this mountain, you would see a kind of a color aberration on the top of the hillside, which it would appear as, I forget what, it's either going to be purple or green, or purple or green. The different types of chromatic aberration appear on different, the different lines, depending on the way they're oriented. And again, I'm not even going to try to get technical and make myself look like a fool. Needless to say, at this aperture on this lens, in this scene, there really isn't that much chromatic aberration. So actually, I might leave that off, because it could take away color information that it doesn't need to. So I'm actually going to leave that off, since I'm not bothered by the chromatic aberration that it has. In terms of my profile correction for this lens, I might not want to... I don't mind. The distortion is not such that it bothers me. There's no strong vertical lines. There's no architectural elements in this scene. It's all natural shapes. There's no hard straight lines that would make the distortion evident. So I'm actually going to back off on the distortion side, because again, any kind of correction does have a negative impact to the final image quality. So the less you can do, the better. And then in terms of vignette, I don't mind the vignette that this had to begin with. Vignette, again, in my opinion, especially if you're putting it on a piece of white, if you're going to be displaying this against a white backdrop, you actually do want a little bit of vignette. I'll probably say this every stream, but Ansel Adams, he always burned in the edges of his frames on his images because he was always presenting on a white border. And it was his belief that it drew the viewer's attention into the image so that their eye doesn't fall out of the frame because the border's too light. Having that darkened border will draw your eye into the image, or it should draw your eye into the image. So I'll take off a little bit of the vignette, just a little. Actually, I don't even know if I want to do any, man, to be honest. I mean, I especially don't want the sky to lose the vignette because that's where, again, brightening the darker parts of the image is where we're going to introduce noise and aberrations and artifacts. So we don't want to brighten the exposure if we don't have to. And I don't think I need to. And now that I said that, that's the truth. So I don't think, really, we're not going to do anything with the optics. I'm just going to leave those all off. I don't think there's anything I can do. Looking at the horizon, I'm actually thinking it looks like I'm leaning. It's really hard to tell because there's not really a flat horizon. I actually look pretty straight. I don't know. Does that horizon look straight? Solid. Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks. It's going to be on Instagram at some point. I mean, that's the video title, Instagram, yo. So yeah, the horizon's fine. The longer I stare at something, the more is going to jump out at me as a weird looking element. I mean, honestly, you pick something to look at. I mean, for me, like I pick something to look at, and the more I look at it and the more I think about it, the more I become paranoid. I'm like, oh, that looks weird. That's really weird. That's so weird. Oh, that's weird. Everyone's going to think that's weird. And it's like, I doubt anybody's looking at that. I'm probably just, again, I'm overthinking it. So just shut up. Shut up, head. Shut up, mind, brain. Because, like, I mean, that looks good, right? I mean, that looks pretty dang good. What else can we do? So I think we're ready to open this in Photoshop. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to do, unless anybody else has a suggestion of something to do, which you have 10 seconds before I exfiltrate my image here. Too many mind. Yes. No mind. Good. Well, now that we're all in agreement, it is a very asymmetrical scene. I'm a pretty big fan. Symmetry here. I'll say something. This is my thoughts on symmetry and composition. A symmetrical composition is just a super easy way to achieve balance in the frame. Easy. It's like cheating. I mean, it's straight up cheating to find balance in the frame. As a photographer, you know, you're striving, at least I strive for balance in the frame so that it feels, the weight of the frame feels good, that when I look at it, it just feels balanced. I mean, that's the only way you really can put it. A little hard to explain. Everybody has a different opinion on that. And when you make a symmetrical image, you cannot argue that it's not balanced, because there should be a perfect amount of light tones, dark tones on both sides of the frame. The shapes should be exactly the same. So it's going to be it's going to be symmetrical and it's going to be a balanced image. And that looks good, no doubt. It looks great. I believe it's much more difficult to find balance in an asymmetric composition. And I find it's a lot more difficult to achieve the look I want to go for without just cheating and using a symmetrical type of composition. So, yeah, asymmetry is I prefer it. If I choose, I'd prefer it. But I obviously symmetry looks great. You cannot argue against that. I'm happy with this. I think we can just open it into Photoshop, and then we're gonna put the border on. I'm gonna put a signature on here, something I've been trying to get myself to do on my images, which I've never really done. Me and my brother John, are both very, very special people. And we both don't want our signature on images. We both have been the same way for a long time. It just mucks up the image. It's like, I don't know. I mean, this is a picture of me, so that's like a signature in itself, in a way. But that's also kind of a stupid mindset because people are going to look at it and you want people to know you took that picture. I mean, that's how you get yourself out there. So I don't know. It's really silly to not put my signature on it. So I'm going to do that. So let me just double check everything. We got our basic color adjustments. Everything looks nice. Did our noise reduction. We did our distortion, optical corrections. Profile's perfect. Color's perfect. Exposure looks great. Let's open that in Photoshop. Beautiful. And I already have, this is my Instagram square white frame that I already have built. And actually, I think that one, I don't know why I have this one. This one was set to the template's 240. And I have mine set to, and this came in as 300. So swapping that resolution real quick just so it matches. And then I'm actually just going to resize before I bring that in, rather. 10 inches. 10 inch. I'm pretty sure the way I haven't posted to Instagram for a while. We actually know we want this to be a 9 inch because we want a 1 inch border, I believe is how I was doing this. I'm trying to remain consistent in terms of my backgrounds and stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how I had it. I'll double check after I get off and make sure I'm not being a fool. And that is looking pretty nice. Let's go full screen for a second. I mean, if you're talking about someone who deserves a lot of money, I mean, that's the guy sitting right there. Looking nice. So the only thing I got to do now is my signature. That is about all I want to do to really put the final touch on this. Although, like I said, let's do one more. Let's do a curve layer. I want to say I could probably brighten it just a tiny bit. I can use it. The clipping mask is fine. I mean, it's not going to adjust. It shouldn't really adjust that. It's white background, so it shouldn't make a difference for that. But use a clipping mask anyway. So let's just brighten it just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. And then maybe add a tiny bit of contrast back in, bringing down the shadows. That's pretty cool. You know what I wish? Looking at the composition, I do wish this large seaweed bundle was actually over here. That's probably my biggest compositional flaw in this. But I couldn't. I mean, what could I do? Pick up the seaweed and put it over there? I don't think so, pal. I'm not gonna. It's not my job to clean up seaweed. I don't even think I thought about that. So I might not have seen it. This is a nightscape after all, and while it was moonlit, I don't know if I would have noticed that in the frame. So I probably didn't even think about it and think about how that was going to affect the composition. Now I can think about it. And if I really wanted to, real quick, I'm just going to do this for real quick funsies. What you could do is just either take this thing out completely. I'm just going to use the patch tool to make this super fast. I could do something like that and like just get rid of it. Because it looks, I mean, obviously I did that really fast. There's some artifacts and stuff I could clean up, but like that looks a lot healthier in terms of composition. Actually, you know what? Should I leave that in there? I think it's context specific. If you think you post social media, you want people to follow your image back to you, especially. Yeah, exactly. You're talking about putting my name on it. Is that what we're referring to? I'm sorry if I missed the chat. I get so caught up doing what I'm doing, you know. But anyway, you know, I just for fun, I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave this. Well, I'm gonna do it. No, yeah, I'll take it out. I'll take it out. Why not? Why not, man? Why not? No one gonna know. What mama don't know, don't hurt her. Let's take it all the way up to that seaweed. I'm just gonna do this a little bit cleaner. Really bad selection. Whoops, on the wrong layer, Paul. Yeah. Yeah, silly. Be on the right layer next time, sir. So actually, I'll leave that tiny bit there. But oh, boom, boom, boom. Is that a boom? It's a boom. That's pretty boomy. And then just to make it look even less obvious, let's take out the footprints that are now copied from this section over here. And let's just add some fucking some different stuff in there so it's not a straight copy of this patch, just to hide it a little bit better. Go along the edges a little bit. No one's gonna know. It's gonna be like our little secret. If you watch my Twitch, you get secrets like this, and it is a secret to everyone. But yeah, dude, that really does increase because there's so much blank. This is a lot of open space, and the sky is quite open. So I think the balance there is now we have less heavy weighted object on the bottom of the frame, and the top of the frame can breathe along with the bottom of the frame. And I think that feels a lot better personally. So I like it. So that's the cool kind of stuff. Like I'm doing this kind of stuff on the fly. So I don't know. It's fun to find those kind of little things we can do. Again, if you're watching this, you're going to be the ones that know about that. You're going to be in on it. And then no one else is going to be. You're very exclusive. What's this bright spot right here? Looks like a little piece of it's a hot pixel. Hot Pixel. That'd be a good name for a band. Me and my buddy Blake have a band called Black Body Radiator. I don't know if you remember that, Blake. We started a band years ago. Yet to produce any music. But we've been writing a lot. What else do we want to do? That was kind of taking that little patch out. That was just a fun little bonus, I'd think. So let's add the signature. Let's add my signature. I don't know how I want to do my signature. I've been creating a bunch of stuff with my with the images I'm getting on my streams, and I've been using all my handles should be the same. It's all going to be Paul Mosi Hanton. But like I'm debating whether I want to have, the Twitter account symbol and the Instagram symbol and the Twitch symbol. It's like it's getting to the point where that little symbol thing next to your handle is going to start to get really long. Why we have so many apps that essentially do almost the exact same thing with one or two features missing. It just blows my mind, dude. But whatever. I thought Instagram was a bad idea when I heard about it. Ha! Paul, you fool. Imagine that. Imagine having the opportunity to invest in Instagram, and then you're like, that's stupid. Facebook, you can do everything you're talking about in Facebook already. So why would you want... I'm just like, I don't know what I would have done to myself. Ooh, font size. Hi. Font size, very tiny. We want it very small. Again, I was getting into hiding my signature in the image somewhere so that it's there so people know it's mine, but no silly logos. Yeah, I mean, if my handle is the same, like, I don't know, there's got to be like, we got to come up, maybe everyone on the stream can help me. We can decide collectively on a symbol that just kind of means like, this is my handle for everything. This symbol means handle on every media. If there is one of those, please share it with me and I will start to use it. I've never heard of one. Anyway, this is the kind of innovation that we come up with on this stream, by the way. Does white look good? Does my signature in white look good there? I mean, it definitely stands out. I just don't know if it takes away. Like, I could be putting it on or in the border, and I'm going to leave it white so it's invisible, of course. Or we can put it more traditionally. Why did you not? Why? What did I do? What did I do wrong? Oh, I'm such a fool. It's because I have the clipping mask on. You fool. Release clipping mask. Release. Okay, I'll just layer it. Wait, no. Oh my gosh. This is what I'm talking about. Why this is not a tutorial, man. Release clipping mask. God, okay. Is that even why it wasn't showing up? Yes, it was. You fool. Again, bringing our font down. That is now the universal symbol for all social media. Did you post something? I didn't see. Did you post a symbol? Oh, the infinity. Oh, I'm sorry. I had to scroll up. Silly. I like the Twitch signature. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Track where the image got. Is that's not something you've heard though, Gary, right? Like that's like literally we're making that up, which is fine. I like that. Somebody referred to Twitch as like the wild, wild west the other day, and I was like, dude, awesome. Am I actually part of something that's like new? Because that'd be great. Okay, what are we doing? We're doing our signature here, and I'm being such a fool. First of all, I'm getting distracted by my audience, so what the hell? Oh, look at that. That's my signature now. Paul Mosi Hetoj Palma Hanton. That's gonna be it. That is now my handle. I think that's a less complicated handle than my actual name. Hello. So what did we think in terms of it on the actual picture or it on the border? Did we have a consensus? Either in the frame here, well, I didn't think I got around to moving it. In the frame or on the white. I am going to try to use that infinity symbol. That's a good idea. I guess it'd kind of bone you though when you start a new social media and you can't use your handle that you've been using. I don't know, whatever. Either way, we made history. I'm gonna make make an executive decision and just put it on the white here. That would be the most traditional place to put it, and I can also now use this as a headshot. No, just kidding. I won't use this as a headshot. I don't need a headshot. Yeah, on the border. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we're in agreement. Agreed. Picard. Agreed. And And it's cool that it is my handle, right? It's not my proper spaced out, capitalized, all that bad stuff. I think I like that it's just my handle, keeps it consistent. So I think we're pretty good, man. I mean, that. First of all, images don't really get much better, so I got that going for me. Oh, you know what? Here's what I want to do. Because I took that foreground element out, this area does call a lot of attention to itself. So let's just really quick, real quick. I'm going to go into a quick mask. I'm going to mask just this bottom. You know, I need more feathering on. I'm sorry, sir, but I need more feathering, which is a reduction. Wait, a reduction in hardness. Feathering is also known as a reduction in hardness. Yep. We want to subtract X. I'm just going to make that into a nice, soft, really soft gradient. Because I like red, so I'm going to paint this red. No, I'm just kidding. This is just the mask. A little bit of a red mask. And then I'm going to use another curve layer. And this is just going to be foreground vignette. Hopefully I spelled vignette right. And foreground. Ugh. And just bring it just slightly, just so slightly down. Because I think that, again, draws the eye away from this. It lets your eye fall into the center of the frame rather than falling out of the bottom, in my opinion. And because I did that, I'm just going to increase the overall exposure just so slightly, Odell. And then I think that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm actually very happy with that. We're going to do a lot of these. I have a whole series of these Starry Night photos that I'm really looking forward to getting into and editing, showing you guys the process, talking about the image itself. I have a lot of stories behind every single one of these images. I'm not going to get into every story because a lot of them are very personal, and I don't want to talk about it, but a lot of them are very personal, and I am going to talk about it because it is very important to the image to know the story behind it. I don't know how many times you've seen an image that you thought was okay, and then you read the caption, and because of the context, it actually added quite a lot to the image. And I guarantee you'll feel the same way about a lot of these images that I have, and I have a lot of good reasoning and explanations behind them. I feel quite a lot about all of my images, and I would love to share that. Here's what else I'm going to do. See, the longer I look at this, I mean, I could stare at this thing all day, and I'm going to find stuff to fix. And now that I've photoshopped out that big pile of seaweed, it's like give up trying to make this au natural as it would be. I'm going to take out, there's that little piece of white fishing line or something in there that I just did not like. It was just really drawing attention to itself. You know, it would have been cool. I would have loved like a small thing of footprints, kind of like going across, like perfect footprints going across this part of the frame. You can kind of see some of them, but it would have been a very hard footprint walking to kind of break up this lack of detail or lack of interesting aspects of the image. There's nothing interesting down here, I would say, and that's why we brought down the exposure. I see another hot pixel too. Hi, hot pixel. Bye, hot pixel. Find a band to name after you, maybe. Does anybody else think Hot Pixel is a good name for a band? I do. We're going to take out these hot pixels. Noise reduction does help take out hot pixels. Oh, look at all these hot pixels in the sky. Just kidding, it's the stars. Let's save this also before before something happens and I have to redo the whole thing. I have not been saving throughout, which is super dangerous. Super, super, super dangerous. I'm going to save the Photoshop first. Photoshop, Paul. Stars with Paul. Stars with Paul. Whoops. Stars with Paul. Halama. Because we're at Halama Beach. How does a trip to the Outer Rings sound? Zagama Beach. Starship Troopers reference. Anybody? Okay, our PSD's file is saved. That was scaring me for a second. So we don't need that one open. Don't save. I think my screen actually froze. Or that file froze or something. I probably did something stupid. That's why I saved it. Anyway, opening it back up. Let's save this as a JPEG. Let's get out of here. It's late. 11:30. Jeez. Been around for an hour and you guys haven't booted me yet? That's impressive. All right. Last looks, everybody. Last looks. Let's not... Okay, I see one more hot pixel now, though. Again, the longer I look at this, I mean, you can just keep catching little things. And the joke I was making right before before Photoshop crapped out on me, I was making a joke about the sky and how the stars are hot pixels. And I was kidding, though, because they're stars. Although it's like, how would you know unless you're a really good astronomer? I'm not gonna be able to tell you which one of those things are stars and which one's a hot pixel, but some people would be able to point those and be like, that is not that there's no star there, so that's a hot pixel, but I'm not good enough. So anyway, our Photoshop document is saved. I happen to know that this was in an RGB color space, and we do want it to be an sRGB because that's what everyone's going to see. That actually probably accounts for some of, I talked about earlier how there can be kind of a saturation discrepancy or a color discrepancy between posting an image online and how it looks compared to how you have it in Photoshop or on your computer. That probably has a lot to do with the color space changing without you setting it. So web browsers should be displaying sRGB. Online, all the images you see mostly are going to be sRGB, still images at least. And keep it at sRGB. I think it might have already been. I think because the template was maybe sRGB, it was already there. But I wanted to make sure that we were in sRGB. And then if I'm posting this to Instagram, it does not need to be a 16.5 megabyte file. If I'm not incorrect, Instagram still only displays 1080 resolution at the max. I could be wrong. I have to check into that. Again, I don't really go on Instagram, so I should know this, but I don't. Last time I checked, 1080 was the max resolution that you can display on Instagram. And when that changes, I'll just repost all my shit at 4K resolution when they get to 4K resolution. Or maybe they'll just jump straight to 8K. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't care. Oh, whoops. Dude, this would be ridiculous. This would crash my computer if I set that to 1080 pixels wide. Yeah, I don't think so, buddy. Okay, so 3.34 megabytes, and that's before we've compressed it into a JPEG. So that'll be even smaller than that. So that's full resolution output size. That's viewing at 100% in Photoshop, which should show you all the details that you're going to see in that image at that viewing distance. And that looks great. So again, 72 pixels per inch, 1080. Perfect for web presentation. All we're going to do now is save this as a JPEG, which if you remember last time, you do have to hit that save copy button to give you the option to compress the image and create a JPEG out of it. But it's not going to be a copy. This is just Starry Night Paul Halama. Should be Starry Halama with Paul, but whatever. Semantics. JPEG, sRGB, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. 12, great. One day I'm going to do some tests and like see if you post on Instagram, if you can tell the difference between the quality level and the JPEG, but I'm just going to do 12, so that's fine. And that is going to be ready to share via whatever social media we choose. Hey, J-Bean. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Might not be legible. It might not be. You're probably right, but that's fine for now. I'll adjust that. Again, let's see how it looks when I post it. I mean, I want to say that is about my viewing size that it would be on my phone. Maybe a little bit smaller. But it's like, I don't know, it gets pretty extreme. I think I'd be more worried about just not having it at all. But I'd rather make it a little less conspicuous personally, so. And then whatever, if it doesn't look good, then we'll adjust the size of that. That'll be something we can do on the next stream, is figure out what size that signature will actually look legible. Anyway, that was great. That was cool. We got a good image out of that, I'd say. Ready for display. Ready for posting. I don't think I'm going to print it. Maybe one day I'll print that. The real way to display your images. But I really appreciate you guys hanging out. I hope that was fun. I hope you found it interesting seeing my little process, my post-processing processing. And I really appreciate you guys all being here. That is my handle on everything, Paul Mosi Hanton. So that's my YouTube, that's my Twitter, that is my Instagram, that is my Twitch. What else? Social, Facebook. Everything's Paul Mosi Hanton. So please follow me on all relevant social media. This is going to be posted on Instagram. Unfortunately, it's not going to be an exclusive. For now it's not going to be an exclusive. This isn't exclusive content for now. This is going to be posted almost immediately. Probably not. Maybe I won't do it tonight, but it's going to be posted to my Instagram. So not really exclusive content in any way for patrons. But if you do love what you see and you would like to support my channel, please check out my Patreon again, Paul Mosi Hanton. I'm just going to put it in the chat. This is everything. And like we said, it's that infinity symbol, which I got to figure out how to type that on my keyboard. You threw me a curveball. I don't know how to type infinity symbols. But for now, I'll just put at Paul Mosi Hanton. Everything is at Paul Mosi Hanton. Again, really appreciate your time. Hope you had fun. If you're enjoying these, let me know. I'm gonna do them regardless, but if you do like them, I'll do maybe even more. And this is more of my professional type of work, by the way. We do this. I'm more serious about this type of photographs. These are very personal to me. All my real life imagery is very personal to me. Again, I'm gonna love talking about a lot of the stories that I have behind a lot of these images, what went into creating them, how I feel about them, what they mean to me. And I hope you guys find that interesting. So go and do it. But anyway, enjoy your rest of your evening. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate all the support. Love you all. Have a great night. Thank you very much.